there's 300 pounds of force that goes through your knee. I'm just making up the number. It's like, sure, there is. You know what I mean? Same thing with techniques. Like in those studies, I don't know. I feel like that was probably a live people, or it was probably cadaver. That's probably the only way they can calculate that stuff. Like I feel like there's other cadaver studies that you can put 500, 600 pounds before the vertebrae actually like smack, before anything gets harmed. Granted, just cadaver studies. It's way different in humans and real life, real people. But I'm sure that stat, yeah, they came from a study somewhere. But it's like, what does that matter? That's the point.
I don't know if like, are you familiar with Mike Boyle and who he is?
Yes.
So he's a pretty big strength coach, and so I always just like keeping up. And there was this guy named Robert Pauka, and he's somewhere in South Africa, I believe. And so like he was the one, and like there's some pain scientist guys here, Lars and Ben McCormick, and some of these guys that are really big into the pain industry. And so they really just they love attacking anytime that there's some meme. And it's funny where it's like it seems like a meme shouldn't be any type of science, right? But that's, I feel like, where a lot of people get their data today. And you have trainers and maybe even therapists to a certain degree, but they're going to be sharing certain images and saying, oh, this is like the new science. And you look at this and it's like, oh, wow, this must be legit. I like the photo, for example, of the little kid who's squatting, like perfect form. And they say everyone should squat like this. And they don't address, baby's head is way much heavier than a human head, and so there's just a lot of different factors. But I feel like it's a U-shaped curve where you get some people who would just go like, if you ever deviate from quote unquote perfect posture, then you're going to die. But then you have the other side of the equation where it's like everything has to be completely by scientific textbook, and if there's any deviation, then you're an ass clown, like they talk about in here with attacking certain people over posture stuff. So that's why I just kind of want to pick your brain and educate the trainers that we have listening today that there's I'm always a big fan of when in doubt, refer out. So talk to the right people like you and get on the right page and see what the current evidence is and go from there.
Yeah, posture is it's a hard one to talk about. Posture can be correlated with a lot of things like pain, but you can't say that one causes the other. That's what's so hard about this stuff. And the same thing with the whole techniques thing. It's like, sure, people that have, that you may say someone has poor posture, but you're like, okay, so what? That doesn't mean they have to have pain. There's a lot of, my dad's fucking neck is like this. It doesn't mean he has neck pain. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So it's just one of those things. It's like, we have to just say, yes, yes, I see that. And then move on. It's not something that we can get all around, because you're right, that does cause a lot of fear mongering for sure. As your angle goes more, your neck gets heavier, but so what? You have muscles back there that support it. You know what I mean?
So what is your take because like with the FMS, I remember no less than a year ago, I was at the West Hollywood one, and there's this trainer doing the FMS test behind his back, and I always have my headphones in pretending to be listening to music, but I'm just, eavesdropping. And the trainer says, oh, we got to fix that, because if we don't, then your shoulder's going to get jacked up and you're essentially going to need, surgery later on. So those are the things that, like you're saying, fear mongering, that I think that it's almost like a double-edged sword, because trainers will learn these quote unquote systems. And we've talked about this before, but then they go maybe too deep down that rabbit hole. And so could you even say normalcy? So like if you were to be working with your dad, is the intent to get his neck back up, or is that something that we have to worry about? So where is that fine line?
So I think it depends on what the patient or client wants, what their goals are, what they believe, and then what your goals are for them. So if my dad's coming to me and he has neck pain, of course I'm going to strengthen everything in his neck, everything in his shoulder region, everything in his mid-back. And those same muscles that everyone's going to say are involved in upper cross syndrome, we're going to strengthen them anyways, like regardless if he had a forward head or not. But if he's not coming to me in pain and he's coming to me for his knee, I'm not going to be like, dude, your neck is effed up. Like we need to fix that thing. You know what I mean? So the whole it's all the correlation associations versus causations. We can't draw those lines between just because we see something, it means they're going to have something else, So it depends on the goals. And honestly, anyone in neck pain, you're going to be doing very similar stuff anyways, regardless of what the posture looks like. You're going to want to strengthen their traps. You're going to want to strengthen their deep back flexors. You're going to want to strengthen all their wrong, like everything in their mid back. You're going to want to work on T-spine mobility. You're going to want to do all the same things regardless of what their posture is. And it's hard to, there's a lot, I can't name all these studies off the head. There's so many studies that try to fix or make posture better. They'll look at someone's posture, where they are on the plumb line, and then they'll do a sort of, they'll do a strengthening program or a stretching program, whatever it may be. And people's pain and discomfort may get better, but their posture didn't change. So I'm not saying posture is not irrelevant. It's definitely relevant to things, but it's not the only thing. When it comes to pain and discomfort, there's so many other things that go into it than just posture, which is what makes it hard. So the head gets heavier. Yeah, it does. Like, sure. You know, it's kind of like, okay, it gets heavier. And then just go on, you know, move on.
I think that it's, people don't realize it's multifactorial, and it's environmental conditions. It could be, you know, the therapist could be good looking, and the guy's going in there and he starts feeling better about himself, and now he has some intent to move on. And so it's like, there's so much. And so with that being said, I always like addressing the, let's see real quickly. This chart is really big in the NASM world, and I wanted to get your take on it to see the, so this is, can you see this guy all right?
Oh yeah.
So they talk about shortened and, you know, overactive muscles, and what you need to do is you always need to identify that overactive muscles. So you take a squat, for example, and you have dynamic knee valgus. Therefore, your adductor magnus is overactive. You need to stretch it, and you have to stretch it for 30 seconds. And then, or actually first you need a foam roll, because if you don't foam roll, you die. And then you have to stretch it, and then you need to activate the antagonistic muscles to strengthen the other side. And so, like, people, they almost, I almost feel like my conspiracy theory is that these associations try to turn the trainer into like a cog, because it almost does better if they don't think. If you can just get them to be a robot and identify overactive, underactive, you take out that thinking process, which potentially would not allow the trainer to go get more of their certifications or whatever it is. And so, you know, what is the current physical therapy approach with this terminology, overactive, underactive, and muscles that are short and lengthened? And can you talk to us a little bit more about ideologies and stuff?
So it's similar, and I'll be honest with you. I feel like most of this stuff comes from surface EMG studies, which there's so much crosstalk and there's so much interference with surface EMG. How are we going to say what's overactive, underactive? And then how do we even determine that? Like, how can we clinically with the client determine that? Like, I don't know. I don't have a good answer. I don't know how to determine that. And then going on further than that, people will associate all those things on the left, the overactive, with things that are tight, right?
Yeah.
Oh, it's tight, it's overactive. But tightness is what you feel. Overactive is a muscle activity. Those aren't necessarily the same thing. So you could feel tight, but it doesn't necessarily mean that your muscle is like a knot. You know what I mean? Like using it more. Like, what is a knot? That's a whole other like rabbit hole we can go down.
We'll do that next time, because that's another good one.
Yeah. So like, for example, upper traps, everyone's like, oh, your upper traps, like they are super overactive. Like we need to stretch them. We need to get them to relax. Right. And the upper traps are also associated with things like forward head posture. People are saying, oh, they're getting overactive. They're lengthened, whatever, or they're short. I don't even know what people say about that stuff, but basically we're trying to get them to relax. Right. I would make the argument that as our head goes forward, going back to what we talked about earlier, it's heavier, right? So because something's heavier, your muscles need to be able to stabilize that. So your traps are going to be more active. There's the overactive part of it. Because they're more active, then you maybe are feeling that tightness because they don't have the capacity to keep up with whatever the loads you're putting on them. So instead of trying to get them to relax and trying to get them lengthened and massaged and digging them out with your elbow, we should be strengthening them so that they can put up with the loads of the quote unquote forward head. Not that any of the forward head is bad. Not that anything is bad. It's just that's just what's happening in the body, and who knows what's causing what too. We can't say that the forward head caused the traps to be. Who knows? What if the traps were weak and then it caused the head to go forward? And now that they're working harder, like it's so hard to say that one causes one. And it goes back to what we were saying before. This charts like this, they're trying to oversimplify the human body, and we can't do that.
Mm-hmm.
That's just hard. Like I don't have the answers to it either, you know.
So
but
when you go back to the foundation of just movement and physiology, it's the overload principle. You find a tissue, and when you systemically make it stronger through a period of time with proper periodization, it's going to get stronger, and maybe that would help with if there is any type of pain, but maybe there isn't pain, and there's just, it's multifactorial. And so what I get, I try to educate trainers on, because they'll get really hung up on this and be like, okay, so how do we make the VMO stronger because it's, you know, underactive in the lateral? And then what happens, I think, is they go to a therapist, because there are a lot of this comes from therapy with, you know, maybe Jonda or, you know, back in the day. And then there's therapists out there who are for work with large associations, and they drink this stuff to the T, and like they're fucking smart. And, you know, they're going to use terms that I have no idea what they're talking about, and they're just going to, you know, run circles around you. And so then that person's like, holy shit, they're smart. Are they smart, or are they just maybe a little more confident in this dogma? And so it gets really, really, really tricky, because I feel the entry standards are low. You come in, you get a piece of paper, and then people aren't confident in their skills, so then they get another piece of paper. They get the corrective exercise, and after corrective exercise, you keep on going down this rabbit hole. It's like you're getting a lot of information, but you really don't understand the basics of physiology. And so, you know, what would your 2 cents be for a new trainer learning this stuff when it comes to quote unquote overactive, underactive, and how you can, you know, work with it with your clients?
I would think of all muscles as muscles. Don't worry if they're over or underactive. Train movements. Yes, the muscle, learn the muscles to understand anatomy, to understand physiology, to understand levers, and how to better, why one exercise maybe targets another muscle different than another exercise, but we can't dive down that deep. Same for PT. Like I can't be like, I'm just going to strengthen your gluteus maximus. No, when I do that hip extension movement, I'm hitting everything. I'm getting, depending on your depth, your adductor magnus, I'm getting your med, I'm getting everything in that. So we can't think, we like to think of things like that because it makes us feel smart. Yeah. Oh, fuck you. Or I'm sorry, I'm keep cussing. I'm doing this exercise to target the glute max. Like that exercise probably will preferentially use the glute max a lot more, but you're using everything else on that sheet too at the same time. Mm-hmm. So we like simple things to make us feel like we're doing the right thing, but our body it's just so much more complex than that. And we want the simple answer. We want the black and white, the yes, no, but it's never going to be that way.
Yeah. So it's almost like we're like Yoda, and we give these pithy words of wisdom, these little sayings like, you know, just get stronger, or, you know, work on the movement patterns. And I feel like the trainers, they want more. They want to sound smarter, and that makes them sound a lot smarter when you have a client in front of you with a checkboard and you say, excuse me, Mrs. Jones, you have an overactive upper traps, and your piriformis is overactive, and you're underactive over here. And so maybe it gives that trainer confidence for a quote unquote prescription that they're trying to give their client. And it's just like they're really overstepping their boundaries.
Yeah, it's like that whole, I think it's called the Dunning-Kruger effect. You know, like when you first start, you think you want to recite these things that are from the book. So, because it makes you feel smart because you don't have the knowledge. And then the more you learn, you realize that there are no easy answers to all this stuff. And you're like, dude, we don't actually know. So when the patient comes in and they're asking me why I'm in pain, I'm going to be like, I'll be honest with you, I don't know, but here are 5 things that I think we found, and I think that that's going to play a role in getting you out of pain and getting you to your goals of here. But you know, to simplify an answer, it's because of this, like all these things. It's because of your forward head. It's because it's too simple. You know, we can't answer things like that. And people want that. Our patients want that. Our clients want that. Oh, it's my psoas. It's my psoas. It's, you know what I mean? They want that answer too, but we got to do better than that and not perpetuate that, because it's not that simple.
Yeah, and it's crazy because there's just so much out there where they try to simplify it. And so that's what it's hard from my position, because you have people coming in and, you know, they want that piece of paper because that piece of paper is going to give them validity. And we just did a really cool thing. I think it's a cool thing because it's going to piss off a lot of people. But I got a girl that passed the NASM CPT in 28 days without even opening up the textbook. And she just used my study guide. I basically just told her, this is how you're going to pass it. And technically, she could work at an Equinox or a Crunch or a Lifetime, and I couldn't because I haven't got my CEUs to continue on my CSCS, whatever it is. And so she's more technically qualified to train someone than I am. And that's why I really like and I know this is another conversation as well, but at least with physical therapy, there is a universal doctrine where what you're learning at, a top school like USC or St. Louis or Baylor, it's the foundation of the body and it's movement. It's not like, oh, Baylor's teaching you X and then Texas is teaching you Y and then USC, they're teaching you something completely different. At least you guys have some similarities. And so, or maybe would you disagree?
I would agree with that completely.
Okay.
So the schools teach for the boards. So our boards, yes, at least we have a board across PT to have a license. The initials PT after your name. But the boards are even outdated and old. We still have questions on ultrasound and things like that. And schools have to teach their students these things because they need their students to pass the boards because that's how schools get ranked. But no, the schools teach all different stuff. Like it, and it goes down again to the fact that our body is so complex. It's like, how can we? I don't know the answer. Like there is no way to teach it in a way that all makes sense because our research is continually evolving, and research just refutes hypotheses. It doesn't prove anything. Research just increases our objective understanding about a topic. It doesn't prove anything. And we never will. Like that's just how research works. Yeah. So that's what makes teaching about this stuff really tough. Mm-hmm. Really tough.
Yeah. I mean, it is. It makes it real tough because coming from the new trainer's perspective, it's hard to tell them these ambiguous answers because they want this road of exactly how am I going to be successful? Oh, it's easy. You just get this cert, boom, you're good. So when you tell them, like people ask me all the time, like what's the next cert I should get? What should I do next? I said, really just understand anatomy and movement. Well, where can I get that? And so it's tough, and that's why I'm a big advocate. You guys have a couple interns, right? Last time I was talking to Rush, you guys have some people who you're working with you right now, right?
We have a girl from PSU. She's doing great. It's part of her senior. She's a kinesiology major. It's part of her something to graduate. She's awesome. She's been really, really good.
Yeah, that's great. So I think that's something that we got to get more involved with from our end is having more relationships with therapists where people can go and intern and they can see the different modalities and how they do stuff. And because I know when I used to intern for a PT, it was just heat and then sound and then massage and then stem and then ice and boom, out
the door.
Yeah. And that's, from the sounds of it, there's maybe even some places that still do that.
Totally. 100%. 100%. We just happen to be in LA, San Diego, Texas, a little bit more, I don't want to call them progressive, but areas where those type of people will be phased out because they're not getting the results and all these other people are. But trust me, that's still rampant, very rampant.
Yeah, so I think the take home for you guys watching this, it can maybe be a little confusing because it's not that I'm knocking any type of, NASM, I hate them, but I just like doing that. But it's just complex. As with pain, it's complex and movement is complex. And it's not something that you're just going to study over a weekend and be that professional. And so you just got to keep on learning. And is there any suggestions or advice that you would give to the trainer who is trying to understand movement better and they're given a chart like this where they have underactive, overactive? What would be the advice to navigate through that?
I would say throw out the chart completely.
I like that. I
would say just spend time with people. Spend time with your clients. Spend time training people. That's how you're going to learn the most. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Train people. And you're going to understand the intricacies of movement and these things. And again, when you're training someone, you're not like, oh, obturator internist is. You're not calling those things out. That's just textbook knowledge. And it sucks is because the test, it sounds like the NASM test needs that. Same thing with PC boards. You have to have the textbook knowledge, but that's just like the bare minimum. And then the real knowledge is working with people. Like that's where in doing your craft, you know what I mean? So I get it. Like I get it. If you need that cert to work with people, study it to pass the test, and then we'll start working with people. Like you got to work with people to really get it.
So I tell them, put your NASM hat on when you take the test, but when you're done, throw it away and start getting your tip. Yep. Exactly. So that's what you got to do. Exactly. So I appreciate these. These are really valuable.